Hello, welcome to Family Therapy Podcast with George Chacha. Today I'm going to discuss a forbidden subject, a forbidden topic. It is a discussion that not many people really want to venture, yet it is something that exists. Despite the fact that almost 8 out of 10 have consumed this drug, hardly will you find anyone coming out in the open to declare that he or she has consumed this drug one time or another. The topic that I'm going to discuss, the forbidden subject, pornography, the porn industry. Please note that it should not be used as a basis to define me, to define my colleague who is going to introduce himself in a short while. But we are discussing facts, things that exist, yet not many people have the courage to come out. The only difference between us, especially me, and the other person is that I have come out to speak about this, as compared to others who have consumed and decided to keep quiet. So without going any further, let me introduce, I have a young person. There is a generation gap. So the young person here in the studio can also introduce himself, because he will be very vital when I will be talking about the generational gap. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Isaac Onyango. I'm happy to be here, willing to talk about the topic.
Thank you, Isaac. And once again, subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed. And if you haven't liked, please like this, click the like, click the subscribe, and inbox. Let's keep this discussion moving. So I want to give an issue like, when did I come across pornography? Believe it or not, I came across pornography when I was in class 6, long time ago, when I was a small boy. Yes, you may not believe it, but I came across pornography when I was in class 6. Interestingly, the whole class, both boys and girls, we consumed that drug. It will be very interesting for you to note that the idea of children consuming pornography, and remember, I didn't go to school when during the digital era. During my time, pornography was kind of analog. We weren't seeing the live porn actions. We were seeing photographs, magazines, very colored and beautiful magazines. So maybe somebody will ask, but in class 6, how did you come across pornography? A boy who was a classmate, one day he came to school with a very big colored magazine, this size, and the magazine he showed us, we watched it. And I remember the excitement that this magazine elicited in class. And we, during break time, during lunch time, during games time, we were all wanting to view the magazine. And therefore, it was powerful. It was so compelling. Interestingly, some of us, without the knowledge of the boy, even went to the extent of tearing off some pages, and we folded them and keep them in our pocket so that we may watch this content later. I think it was probably maybe a Monday or a Tuesday when we had this magazine. Believe it or not, on Friday, the boy came with another magazine, a whole different magazine, different from the other one. So the biggest question is, where was this boy getting these magazines? They looked new, very well kept. Chances most likely are, even though of course we never asked him, but there is a very good possibility that he must have gotten these magazines from the house or home library, from the shelf, from the bedroom, from somewhere. Definitely he was not picking these magazines from the trash or from the roadside. And therefore, it's quite interesting that the child you know as an angel might have or could be at the edge of consuming pornographic material without your knowledge. Now, maybe sometimes you ask yourself, what is pornography? Pornography, according to the interpretation, is the visual content It's the visual content or a pictorial form. It could be visual, either electronically or pictorial form, depicting live sex acts, okay? Depicting live action in regards to sex matters. And therefore, people or children really want to watch this thing because it kind of triggers a certain sense of feeling in their mind. And during that time, in class 6, remember, it was really eliciting quite some excitement in us, and it was quite exciting watching these things. If I tell you that some of us went to the extent of tearing off pages from this book without the owner of the magazine knowing, so that we may watch it at a later date, at another time, it simply shows you how powerful it was. In primary, I've told you, I encountered it through another boy who had access to this magazine, and it was always exciting. And whenever we come with this magazine, I remember so many of us would ask him to bring the magazine over and over again. Then come to secondary school, I experienced yet again pornographic material. I came across them. I mean, interestingly, I was in the seminary, but you see, despite the fact that we were in the seminary, there can never be a sack without rotten potatoes. There were some who had access to these materials. Still, it was analog, not digital. We had not yet gone to digital level. And therefore, we continued, not so much, but there was some level of pornographic material. And then it comes to that point where I joined the military. Now, the consumption of porn material was highest when I joined the military. Assume that it's legal in the military. In fact, it's very illegal. How do we watch this pornography in the barracks? Late at night, past 11 p.m., after the duty officer has done his round and we are sure that he's gone, that is when the soldiers at the time in Embakasi Garrison, other ranks club, past 11, that's when we will put porn videos. During that time we had the video decks and the cassettes. That's what we were watching. And for us to watch the porn, we would position another soldier who would be at the gate to warn us in the event the duty officer was coming. So it was consumed very, very clandestinely so that it doesn't put us into trouble. And I continued until that moment, but I had some morality issues. Sometimes I would feel sinful, I would feel convicted, my spirituality would be convicted what I'm doing. But I found myself compelled because it was so captivating. You want to watch. The moment you see just for 2-3 seconds and you are hooked onto the track and you become transfixed. I remember one time standing transfixed onto the screen for close to 30 minutes, despite the fact that I had declared I'm not going to watch pornography. But I had to be there to watch one episode after the other. Later on, I will also be talking about how I also consumed pornography in my marriage. Yes, well, again, remember, as I said, don't judge me by today. Maybe I will be explaining later why have I come out. Because I'm just hoping that I will help somebody. I will help a family. I will actually break the ice and kind of address the stigma. Many people are going through the same. Many people have sunk and many people are even captives right now because of pornography and they cannot come out. We will also be discussing how do we get out of porn fridge. And maybe just before I go, I want to hear from the young man. This is a young man, a Gen Z, and I know his time and my time are different. For instance, how do you think young people, especially your generation, how do they come across pornography? Or I believe one way or the other you might have seen it also, maybe you also landed on porn material. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I believe in our age these people are actually highly exposed to technology.
Mm-hmm.
So accessing pornographic material is not that difficult. So you can access it from mobile phones. And actually, there are these funny books coming up on the street. Yes.
For instance, do you think in primary school children actually talk about porn or maybe have shared issues to do with pornography in primaries, high school?
Yeah, when we talk about schools, porn is really there because I think let's start from the disposal of pornographic materials. Adults always buy these materials, the CDs, and the disposal of the sachets. I mean the packets where the CDs are being packed are just being disposed aimlessly. So children get access to them, come with them to school, share with others. And since this is something that has always been hidden from children, children are always curious to know what's really happening. So there's that excitement of getting such kind of stuff.
Very interesting that the wrappings of the CD, most of which of course contain pictures of sex act,
Absolutely.
they end up in the hands of children. And what about in secondary school? I mean, these are bigger boys, there are many, they maybe even live in the same dormitory. What kind of discussions are there in schools?
Discussion is always there because as a young person, it's a really exciting topic to talk about. Yeah, because this is something that supercharges you. You just feel excited whenever you talk about it.
Supercharge. That's the
Exactly.
one. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when I talk about high school, things do happen. People do sneak in schools with mobile phones, maybe flash disks, maybe CDs. So that is how it is easily accessible in high schools. So we must admit the fact that it's illegal to actually come with such stuff in school.
Certainly.
Yeah, but since it's really interesting, people do sneak in with them. Yeah.
You have mentioned that sometimes they come with the SD cards or CDs. How do they watch them? For example, like the flash disk, if they have that content of that material, how do they watch them?
In terms of watching from flash disks, we'll talk about schools. There are this, I won't say they are really much advanced schools, but they're in a good place to have access to computer labs and maybe some few computers in school used for lessons and all that. So from there, that is the point where students sneak in with flash disks and maybe CDs. When the teachers are not around, they sneak in to watch.
Oh, Mwalimu, I want to go and I have a computer exercise. I want to go and do computer exercise.
Absolutely.
And they will be, that's the time they will be watching this. Quite something there that we really have to take note. I mean, during my time, we didn't really have this leisure or this pleasure of technology. And the young man, Isaac, has mentioned technology. And we'll be talking about, for example, like the effects and how people come across this. And the effect maybe that I want to really talk, I mean, we might talk like what are the effects on, or how did the pornography affect me? How did my involvement in pornography affect me? And before I go to how pornography affected me, there is a star, a porn star from the United States of America, who kind of corrected herself. Actually, she got born again. She broke away from the culture, from the act of pornography. She quit porn industry. And after quitting porn industry, she accepted Jesus. She got born again. And listening to that documentary of that young lady, she wept and cried. And says that it is so painful to know that my past deeds are still available on internet, and knowing very well that my 4-year-old daughter will one day come across it. And when she asks me about it, what will I tell her? This is one of the people that I have heard with the greatest testimony about pornography. Further again, having listened to a wide range of pornography from people who have corrected themselves, it is apparent that many of them, they commit suicide. Many of them are drug addicts, and many of them have really kind of broken up emotionally so that they are not fitting anywhere. Now, porn affected me in a number of ways, but again, remember, I did not sink deeper. I actually sank into porn industry only up to maybe around my knees. There are people who may be watching this show who are trapped and almost permanently caged inside porn industry. I'm glad that I'm alive, but then how did it affect me? I craved for these magazines. I wanted to watch more and more of these magazines. It came to a point where I would even go looking out for these magazines. These magazines during my time, they were of limited supply. They weren't really as many as it is today. Now, watching pornography as a young man inside the barracks, I was not yet married. I remember one night after we had watched pornography, and it was around 11:30 p.m., like a bull that is highly charged, my friend and I set out to go and look for pasture. We felt that we were highly charged, and therefore we needed to go and cool down our nerves. And that is the most regrettable, the most unfortunate thing that I remember. We were drunk and we were sexually charged by watching pornography, and we thought that the only way to kind of discharge was actually to go and do what we wanted to do. But thank goodness for me, I really didn't sink, because I gradually now, when I got married, it became even now less and less, and finally I had to break free from the grip. But again, take note that during my time, that is in the 90s, internet availability or internet access was not really readily available. Now, do I still watch pornography? Maybe somebody will be wondering, do I still watch pornography? Capital N-O. No, I don't watch pornography. And I really never took to porn. I think I only took to porn because out of excitement. I wanted those temporary excitement. So we can say that I was a light consumer. I was not a heavy consumer. I was not a dependent. And then also something that kind of protected me against porn industry was my Christianity or my religious background. In one of my past discussions, I said that I grew up a relatively moral life, Christian life, where I focused on Christianity. And that's the reason why many times, whenever I would be in porn, watching porn, my conscience would be convicted. My conscience would be pricked, like, what am I doing? Okay? Now, I'm going to discuss one of the most scaring thing. This is possibly the most scaring part of pornography. And parental guidance is advisable. That means tighten your safety belt, because what I'm going to share with you next will render you now. But again, I want to remind you, if this is your first time you're watching Family Therapy Podcast, I request you to subscribe to this channel. Click the like and click the bell, because I will be bringing more and more of these forbidden subjects and the subjects, topics that can only be found in Family Therapy Podcast from a man who sees some of these things that can uplift families. Now, being a public speaker and a mental health, being a public speaker on mental health and family conflict, and having talked to very many children, very many young people, very many couples, I can share this chilling information. Many children, by the time they are graduating from grade 6, they have consumed pornography, many children. And this is very scary. And my fellow parents, and maybe even the young people who are watching, it's very likely that the innocent child who prays at table during meals time, that innocent, young, beautiful face that prays just before going to bed, that child might have consumed pornography. And if he or she hasn't, it is just a matter of time. It is not whether he or she will ever meet pornography. It's just a matter of time when they will do it. We have heard from the young person here, Isaac, and he has shared with us how young people get hooked into this, how they come across these things. And I tried to do my own survey, and I talked to a total of 83 young children in schools, aged between 17 and 34. And believe me, 36 children in primary had already accessed pornography, and 47 in high school had also consumed pornography. And remember, when I talk of high school, I'm talking Form 1 and Form 2, because I'm really concerned with the younger age. This is very chilling information. The issue is not whether your child will ever meet it. If he hasn't, it's a matter of when. And this is what we'll be discussing. Don't go away, because this topic is very critical. And maybe somebody may ask, why exactly am I coming out? My very first reason for me to come out is, one, to give a testimony and information that will impact on families and individuals. That children, the children that we see, the children that we raise, many a time are wearing a face that is not theirs. Now, before I go and verify, I want to say, like, how did the children, or the children I talked to, because I interviewed them, how did they come across pornography? And I will read a few points here. Many children come across pornography at PlayStations. Those children who go out to play PlayStations, they come up, some of these PlayStation, either they are on TV, they are played with a machine and a TV screen. Some of them are played from computers, and this computer, depending on who was there first, he or she may have left a porn window open, and therefore this child, with an intention of going to play maybe a certain computer game, this child lands right inside a window that has porn material. And trust me, that child will not live there again. This is something, a confession that I got from 3 children who told me, I first came across porn when I went to play PlayStation on a computer. The porn window was open. That child, actually the 3 of them, clearly say, we didn't play PlayStation anymore. Instead, it became a session for us to watch pornography. And therefore, PlayStation, computer, internet, like Isaac has mentioned, with the availability and readily available internet become cheaper, became accessible from phones and from computers, then the children end up engaging in this. Then there's the video. Then during my time, we had video auditoriums. In the estates, we had video where people used to pay 5 shillings during that time, 5 shillings, 7 shillings, 10 shillings. And interestingly, I was a young person, and I would see children, school children, primary would be maybe grade 7, grade 8, Form 1, and these porn content used to be played past 10:30 p.m. Interestingly, to watch porn was more expensive than to watch a normal movie, like Jackie Chan, I don't know, Rambo, and all these kind of things. Meaning that porn is in high demand, and therefore our children come across porn through videos. Smartphones, readily available smartphones. Isaac has mentioned that the children who come to school with smartphones, and they do all manner of things. Some children even actually watch porn through their parents' smartphones, and this is very scary. Another very important point that I got from one of my respondents, he said, because our parents were strict, we used to tell them that we are going to visit a friend. When they visit their friends, when the parents to their friends maybe have traveled up country, or they have traveled one way or the other, they are absent, then these children would sit to watch porn from morning to evening. We are talking of primary children. We are talking of high school children who are watching pornography at a neighbor's house. And therefore, it's very important for us as parents to really be very concerned. Where are our children going? With whom are our children interacting? And what exactly would they be following? It should not just be nishauri yao. It's their own, or like, oh, my children are big. And when it comes to pornography, there is no gentle person. There is no big person. There is no young person. All of us are condemned to it. The other thing is that many children, again, I talked to, they said they were inducted by big boys. He is a young boy who is only 6 years, in grade 6, he's grade 7, and he or she, or it could be the girls, and they have met, they met out there, the big boys, the big guys, and these big guys kind of telling them, oh, you guys, you're primitive, you are backward. Come on, test this, try this. And therefore, there are also those children who are recruited by mere fact of being inducted into porn, or rather watching porn. I want us to look at specifically this point of visiting their friends. I think this is very, very important. I think as parents, there's a need really to caution our children and have a candid talk with them. I know their friends may not be our friends. And to break that bond, I know it's not easy, but it will come to that point of going beyond the boundary, to dig out, just to find and establish what kind of children are those other children, or the neighbor's children. Otherwise, then you safeguard your children, you try to build them and build a wall around them. Then what happens? The children will be lured into the act by other children. I don't know, Isaac, what maybe you have to say, because you are a young person. Again, there's a generation gap between us. The time when I grew up and the time when you grow up. What do you think? Can you say about this aspect of how children, young children maybe, or even girls, come across this material, prohibited material?
Yeah. I believe everything you say is actually how it happens, because there are different ways kids get exposed to pornographic materials. Access to phones, access to internet, visiting friends. Yeah, you can have these very funny friends who are very funny personalities and are very interested in most of the weird things in the world. So I think that's how it is.
Thank you. Indeed, that aspect of, like they say, show me your friends, and I know what kind of person you are, okay? Bunch of same feathers, again, flock together. It's very important for parents, really, to be very much updated as to with whom their children are. I want us to discuss about harmful effects on porn on children and viewers. This is very important, because many people take it like pornography is just pornography. But like I said earlier, if there is the most destructive, the most dangerous drug that needs to be watched, that needs government resources to fight against, it is pornography. And this cannot be diminished. And it has all the consequences. And if what we are going to discuss here is anything to go by, I believe the same zeal, the same effort, the same resources that the government, through the deputy president, is using to fight against alcohol in Mount Kenya region, it should be the same. It should be with the same zeal that this bad practice of porn should be attacked with. And let me begin with addiction. Okay, watching pornography is very addictive. It is more addictive than any drug that you can think of. It's more addictive, really. And the problem is that once you get hooked onto porn, you don't want to leave, you don't want to quit. I was held by chains as much as I wanted to walk out. I couldn't walk out because I just wanted to watch. And when it goes, I want to watch the next episode. And without knowing, despite the fact that there are many seats there, I found myself standing, torn between sitting down and leaving, but I couldn't. So that's the danger of addictive. And when a child has become addicted, I'm not talking about a child alone, even adults, because I'll be talking about married couples somewhere along the line. And therefore, the moment people get addicted to porn, it becomes very difficult to quit, and the consequences are dire. There is also that aspect of sexual perversion, Pornography contributes to a lot of homosexuality and lesbianism among the youth. And even married people, those people who watch pornography. I have actually heard of a testimony, not even a testimony, actually 3 testimonies of how a married partner converted status to another level, somebody joining. He was a straight person and in a stable marriage, and now this person is actually in a same-sex relationship. And therefore, these are some of the effects. Watching pornography contributes to homosexuality and lesbianism, undesirable behavior. Another effect of pornography is that it contributes to loss of focus, loss of interest. When somebody is hooked onto pornography, he or she, now I really don't, he or she really becomes disinterested in many things. This is somebody who will spend hours and hours on the screen or on the phone watching pornography. The other aspect of loss of interest, you find that if it was a child who was in school, then he loses interest in his studies, and this child even loses a disconnect from the family. He becomes very secretive. So the things that he or she is doing are so secretive, and he or she finds solace and comfort when he or she is alone. So it kind of withdraws. Watching pornography withdraws. There is that aspect of loss of self-esteem. The child or the person watching this material, he or she loses self-esteem. He or she is not comfortable wherever he or she is, wants to be alone. Again, it kind of promotes depression, because one aspect of depression is withdrawal, and therefore this person will withdraw. Without self-esteem, he or she just wants to be alone, doesn't want to be with others, and therefore becomes some kind of an introvert, to the extent that he or she loses focus in very many aspects of life, and therefore this thing changes a whole person. But another very serious effect also here is that aspect of anxiety and depression. Okay, it promotes anxiety. It promotes anxiety and depression, and gradually the person concerned suffers from ED, or erectile dysfunction. I remember when I was a young man, I met a very rich engineer. This man was rich, he had all the money, he had all the looks, he had social status that everybody, let me say that he was the envy of many, but we were close with this guy. But one day he confided to me and told me, if only I could get somebody who could help me sustain an erection, I'm ready to pay him or her even 2 million shillings. And remember, I'm talking of 1990. Somebody is ready to pay 2 million shillings for him to get sustainable erection. Now, yes, the guy used to consume pornography, and it's possible that the porn material that he consumed to a greater length must have contributed to his ED, or the erectile dysfunction. And therefore, we have to note that heavy consumption of pornography, not very heavy, but even if light consumption, because you begin with small doses, and as time progresses, then you become a heavy consumer. Therefore, the key word here is just don't consume pornography. And therefore, any involvement in pornography contributes to very serious problem. Now, pornography contributes to mental health, where somebody has very negative behavior, you just negative, you're just not doing good, and you not interested in, you're just odd, there's the idea of pornography. Pornography contributes to drug abuse, like cocaine, alcohol, marijuana, among others. And like I said earlier, really, I've listened to testimonies on YouTube of those people who have quit pornography, have changed completely from porn industry to normal industry, and they all say one thing, that for them to perform porn, for them to produce pornography material, they have to be drugged, meaning that cocaine and all manner of drugs are provided to them so that they may be able to do what they are doing. And to the viewers, I think it's very important to know that we're being lied to. The people who are seemingly showing an erection, big size of whatever it is, the truth of the matter is they are under heavy dose of drugs for them to do what we see on the screen. And therefore, it is just sucking us out from ourselves. And it's important for us to note the effect of how it really contributes to loss of identity. Porn contributes a lot to prostitution. The more we watch pornography, the more we indulge in porn material, we'll end up in prostitution. Because it creates a crave. We are craving for the same over and over. It promotes homosexuality, it promotes lesbianism, and therefore you find that we are in a situation, or we are in something that we really never envisaged. Pornography leads to complete destruction of a child or adult sexuality. Consumers of porn, their sexual life is completely eroded, and it may never be the same. And it will therefore be very important to realize that porn is not just exciting, but it is killing. Once again, let me ask the young person here, Isaac, what do you think you can add on to what you have talked about, the effects of porn on people, maybe from your perspective? Remember, I'm giving it from my perspective and understanding, but you also have to appreciate that you are a young person who is living in this modern time.
From a perspective level, pornography, number one, it interferes with the attention span of a person, because there's a manner in which it interferes with your neurons. So, in a way, I believe you understand what
I understand, yes.
Number two, it interferes with your self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because indulging in such kind of shameful activities, because watching porn does not only make you addicted, it makes you involve yourself in some kind of activities, maybe beating the meat or something.
Very interesting.
Yeah, which is very shameful. So it actually interferes with the self-esteem of a person. Yes.
Oh, great, thank you, really. That's another very powerful perspective about pornography. And really, Isaac, you have mentioned something there, that it interferes with the psychological makeup of someone, so that the things that he or she will be doing will be completely out of the norm. Okay, and that's quite important. Now, viewers, I'm going to be talking about effects of porn on married couples, and I think this is very, very important on married couples. And like I said earlier, I am a public speaker on marriage conflict and mental health, and I have received numerous calls, and many callers have actually confessed to being consumers of porn, and several of them have regretted the impact, the effect that it has had on their marriages. Now, to those who have had a deep addiction to porn, and these points apply the married couples, I've already mentioned some of them out there, but then in marriage, when you have an erectile dysfunction, then simply means you cannot satisfy your wife. And if you can't satisfy your wife, then what does it mean? That marriage starts to lose the bond. You start falling apart. And with the time, the marriage will definitely crumble. Because the moment you come on, the moment you think that you have preached, within a short time, you have released. And therefore, there is that aspect of unfulfilled promise, incapacity to actually live to the expectation of your partner. And therefore, it's terrible, especially to the young people who have been watching pornography. These are some of the things that you have to prepare yourself with. Chances are that you might find your sex life quite a challenge. Another challenge is where now strained marriage relationship, the marriage becomes strained because conjugal right is very, very critical. And we're talking about sex in marriage. It's a component, it's a segment that is not reducible, it is not negotiable, it's not bargainable. And therefore, it will be extremely important that we take into consideration this. And then, so the marriage becomes strained, and finally, or gradually, as people go about, there's a lot of loneliness in the marriage. The husband is lonely, the woman is lonely, and what it will finally lead to, this man or this partner who cannot derive satisfaction from sex, what will happen is that they will consider changing status. That's where now we find a man becoming a homosexual, a woman turning to a lesbian, maybe hoping that they will get the satisfaction that they're missing. But another also effect of porn on marriage is it leads now to the use of more hard drugs. Because now he is a partner who has been unable to fulfill his or her obligation, then he goes to look for solace, for some kind of comfort, and this person goes to use drugs and find the extent of using maybe marijuana, cocaine, many other type of drugs, alcohol, and then there is now drug abuse. And then gradually this thing leads to hopelessness. You become hopeless in your marriage. You become hopeless in your relationship. You become, or rather you recede to depression. And finally, suicidal thoughts creep in because you feel like life is not worth living. So, interestingly, there is also another danger of marriage breakup. So finally the marriage will break up. And I have also heard that watching pornography can actually lead to jealousy, whereby you feel like the person you are watching on pornography is better than your partner. You feel like maybe you should actually establish that's the kind of life that you want to lead. Therefore, the two, in the marriage, there's jealousy, that aspect of jealousy, resentment, bitterness, anger towards each other, and finally the marriage just stops holding. Now, it's very important for us to know that this is a world that we have found ourselves in. We have allowed ourselves to sink into a bottomless pit. And maybe we can ask ourselves, how can one come out of pornography? Like I said earlier, I only sunk up to the knee high. There are many people who have sunk up to the top of their head. They're right inside. And maybe they want to come out. So how does one come out of porn industry? In other words, how does one overcome the addiction of pornography? Overcoming any type of addiction is not easy. But of course it's possible. With all the challenges, with all the difficulties, overcoming porn is possible. And I will be discussing the possible exit routes. There exist exit routes out of pornography. Okay? There exist a number of exit routes, and I will be sharing some of them. First and foremost, one must have the will to quit. In other words, you want to stop. Do you really want to stop pornography? Do you really feel there's a problem? I mean, you have to have the will, the desire, okay, that you really want to quit this aspect of pornography. And two, and very importantly, is do you acknowledge that you have a problem? Is there a problem? Because many a time we know we already have a problem, but we don't know that we have a problem. We are not even aware that we really need an intervention. And therefore, we might have to ask ourselves, do we really know that we have a problem? And it's not until we know that we have a problem that we can look for solution, for help, for intervention. And therefore, we have to acknowledge that we have a problem. And then once we acknowledge that we have a problem, then we have to seek for professional advice. We have to seek for guidance and counseling, for the experts. That's when now we start evaluating, weighing, what should we do? How should we do it? And who is the best person suited for this intervention? Okay? Another point, another exit route out of pornography is that aspect of embracing spirituality. I mean, we have the spirituality aspect of it defines or confines. It sets the bounds for us to follow. And therefore, when we come to talk about spirituality, it means that you have, once you have noticed that you have a problem, you need assistance, then you seek spiritual guidance. And it has worked much. In counseling, we are normally asked what's the symbol of hope? What role does spirituality play? And therefore, it's quite important. Now, once you have embraced spirituality, then join cell groups, prayer groups, attend workshops, seminars, and all that with the view of helping yourself. The other thing is share your problem with your family. It could be your parents, your brothers, it could be your wife, it could be your partner, your children, and tell them that you have a problem. Because in the end, you will need their moral support, and therefore, just go out and do this. I mean, do something that share your problem. You know, a problem talked is a problem half solved, and therefore recognize that as a very important create safe space in families. Create safe space in families, meaning that let parents hold family meetings and talk about homosexuality. Not many parents dare mention pornography to their children. How many parents have ever talked about pornography to their children? How many parents have ever talked about homosexuality or lesbianism to their children? Yet these are things that exist. And the reason why I say that pornography is a forbidden subject is because many of us believe it's a taboo to talk about these things. Therefore, we leave our children to discover by themselves. We leave our children to find out answers and solutions to themselves. And that's exactly where we lose it. And therefore, it's important for us to create safe spaces in families where we talk about our issues. We talk about the dynamics about sexuality. We even get time to teach our children even more. Let us note that porn industry is one of the richest industry in the world. Statistics say that it generates up to 100 billion US dollars every year, clearly showing that an industry is bigger and dependent on the consumers. If we can talk of an industry that is producing up to 100 billion US dollars, it simply means that it has very big market, and that market could very much be you and me and our children. Now, let's hold candid talks about sexuality with our children. Therefore, it's extremely important. The internet control, how do we control our children access to internet? Okay, we should send our children, our young people, and even we married people, we should be attending marriage seminars, okay, couples seminars, youth seminars, where we are trying to kind of discuss these things candidly. And viewer, to that person, I know possibly I'm talking to somebody who is a victim of porn, somebody who is a heavy consumer of pornography. In a moment, I will be talking how do you come out of porn fridge. But before I go far, I know that this discussion of parents and children most especially is very important. And since I have a Gen Z in the studio, let me hear from him. What do you think we as parents could really do to ensure that children don't find themselves in that situation? There are things that we should do. There are things that we should not do.
Yes, I believe parents should actually learn to hold spade a spade and actually learn to educate their kids in terms of self-discipline, self-love, because those are the core values that actually can make a better person. Yeah. Because the moment you learn self-discipline, this simply means you discipline your thoughts. And how do we engage into pornography? Just from thoughts. And who will teach you that if it's not your values? Yes. And when we talk about self-love, you have to love yourself in the level that you can't do these shameful things, like watching pornography. It's shameful. You can even watch it alone in your room, but when the cat kicks the door, you're scared. Why are you scared? Because you're doing something shameful. So it's good to embrace self-love. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, to the parents, because you have heard that this is not a taboo. It's not a forbidden subject. It's a subject that we must candidly share with our children. Are you frozen, to the viewer who might be a victim of pornography, are you frozen inside the fridge of porn? Are you caged in the porn eyes? Break it and come out. And the only way to break it, there are many people who have chosen to remain frozen in the fridge, unfortunately. But the only way to break it is for you to come out and speak about it. Now, maybe you don't know exactly how to come out. You don't know exactly how to break that ice. I am available. Call me. You can reach me via Family Therapy Podcast. You can call me directly on my line +254 722 381 547. I mean, let's have a candid talk. I desire to see strong families. I desire to see people who have broken the ice, people who are outside the porn fridge. This is Family Therapy Podcast, and I have been your presenter, George Chacha, and the young man, Isaac. Thank you so much for also giving me this support. It has been a great pleasure having you, just hearing also from the perspective of the youth. Thank you so much. And